Hello. All right, let's call to order our November board meeting. Glad to see everyone. Hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving. We'll be back at it. Steve's out of town, so I'll be presiding. We have one sick board member, so it'll just be the three of us and Dr. Freeman today. So first, let's get started with the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I have approval of the minutes from the October 25th meeting. Do I have a motion? A second. All in favor?
First, I want to recognize three of our great administrators tonight for a big accomplishment in the world of education and administration. The pinnacle achievement is to get your doctorate, and it does take a lot of work, and people don't do the exercise, but until you do it, to really appreciate the volume you spend on it, and you can make it really difficult on yourself and do more than just a quantitative dissertation, and I think they all decided to make it difficult on themselves and do more than that. But kudos to them. I want to recognize them tonight. I want them to tell you the name of the dissertation and tell us what they found out through their research. Please don't give us the whole lit review. Just a portion of it. Okay. First of all, Dr. Amy England, Dr. Jason Bostic worked together on their dissertation at Stanford University, and I would like for them to share a little bit about what they did at work.
Okay, so we did a quantitative study, and we did the differences. Do differences exist between teacher well-being and leader behaviors?
And we focused on Alabama, 2 schools in Alabama. We looked at free and reduced lunch. So we found the high and the low in the state, and then we found of those 2 schools, which 2 were comparable in size as well. We originally reached out to Tennessee because we wanted to go out of state, but we weren't successful at getting feedback from them. So we were able to just stay at home in Alabama, and so.
But we found that there were differences in leader behaviors in high and low socioeconomic schools in the state, but there were not differences in teacher well-being. So we found that very odd with COVID and all that. We thought we would find some differences, but in teacher well-being, it was almost exact across the board from the low and the high socioeconomic schools.
So our study allows for, if someone else wanted to take our study and look into why are there differences in leader behavior, there were 5 sub-areas of transformational leadership, and of those 5, there were 3 that were significantly different, and so it would be a great extension if someone wanted to take that on later.
Someone else.
Yeah, leave it open. Dr. England's their 3rd year at Vestavia High School. He does multiple things, including power school, master scheduling, in and of itself deserves a doctorate.
Really, that's so nice.
Dr. Bostic is in his 1st year presents, but spent several years at Kyle Heights in elementary assistant principal, and they just do great work. So thrilled to be able to acknowledge it tonight. It is a great achievement, and it is one worth noting. So thank you. Stay with us just a second. All right, Dr. Blair and Abbott. Dr. Abbott, 2nd year principal at Liberty Park
Yes.
Elementary School, and tell us about your dissertation.
So I looked into character education leadership. It was an exploratory collective case study of effective leadership in the implementation of character education in national elementary schools of character. And I did a collective case study of 3 elementary national schools of character in states, 3 different regions, 2 of which were new national schools of character, and 1 had recertified as a national school of character, and explored what leadership behaviors facilitated effective character education implementation, and found that there were really 6 themes. There were things that principals did. There were things that are ways that principals made others feel. There were explicit structures in place in school. There were implied norms in place in school. There was collective ownership, and there was a drive for continual improvement. So it was it was fascinating and really affirming of the work that's going on in our district and in my school specifically. And I've also found some things that others can take the ball with running when it comes to character education and effective leadership of those programs.
All three of our great administrators here finished their degrees at Stanford University, and which we enjoy a great partnership with. And last year brought through a cohort of EDS teachers, and that are now, some of them are actually some administrators in our schools. So we appreciate their partnership. Excellent education for three great administrators. Congratulations, all of you guys. I'd like to give you this just as a token of appreciation and acknowledgement. And let's get one picture of them too together. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Congratulations. Yeah. Hands popping through. Excellent work. Congratulations.
Okay, item 5, I recommend the board approve consent items related to disposal of property, overnight field trips, in-state field trips, and out-of-state overnight field trips.
All right, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation to approve the consent items. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
As in all of these cases, there are still stipulations of things that our folks are doing to be a part of field trips, depending on what state they go to, what help orders or situations there might be. And as always, we can cancel these if that becomes the case. So, all right, financial statement.
Good afternoon, board members. I have provided the October 2021 financial statements and check register for your review. As of October 2021, which is the first month of our fiscal year, we have collected just under 1% of our budgeted ad valorem tax revenues compared to the 2% that we had received this time last year. Our total expenditures in the general fund as of October 31st were 8.49% of the budget compared to 7.7% last year. All monthly financial statements and check registers are posted on the board website after they are approved, and all bank accounts have been reconciled as of October 31st, 2021.
Thanks, Courtney. And typical per month is about 8.33. So we're starting tracking off right. Yeah. Very good. Thank you. Board members, I recommend approval of financial statements for October 2021.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation to approve the financial statement through October 2021. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Under business, item A, I recommend the board approve the change order for the Vestavia Hills High School Athletic Field House Roof Project.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation to approve the change order for the Vestavia Hills High School Athletic Field House Roof Project. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Item B, I recommend the board approve the change order for the Vestavia Hills Elementary Dolly Ridge Library.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation to approve the change order for the Vestavia Hills Elementary Dolly Ridge Library. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just note that this one and the last one are credits, which are.
Excellent.
Those ones are finished under budget.
Excellent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Item C, I recommend the board approve the addendum to Dr. Blair and Evidence Principal Contract.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation to approve the addendum to Dr. Blair and Evidence Principal Contract. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. All right. Item D, this is a financial update. As you know, we have been a part of a few rounds of stimulus dollars from the federal government in the last year and a half. And the most recent one, the American Recovery Plan, required that there be certain expenditures for instructional loss by students, time lost, and other different factors you can use. And I wanted to cover with you what we're using the funds for that came in this year's allocation to us. The board was allocated about $990,000 from the federal government through ARP funds to be used for things related to ways to improve health, instructional loss of time, et cetera. So I wanted to make sure you're aware of those. This is one of the required reportings we have. This is the first time we've had to do this, but we've made available, I believe, all of the different expenditures from the federal reports to you, but this was a particular requirement in this law. So just so you know, the document that you have in your minutes shows the budget breakdown. We spent, it's about 102 is the of that document. Page 102 is about the best place to see it, but we spent about $198,000 on instructional loss of time and virtual programming. That was Ingenuity and the 6 through 12 program as well. I believe that's right. Then we spent, are going to spend $377,000 plus on mechanical equipment. We're going to replace 10 air conditioning units heating and air units at East. That's part of our overall energy management strategy. We're pulling dollars from this to do that. We have some pretty outdated equipment on that campus. We are spending approximately $150,000 for 2 additional nurses this year, which brings our total to 12 in the district. We are adding $66,000 plus for additional Ingenuity courses that we just pay for annually for grades 6 through 12. And then almost $200,000 for professional development for our teachers. That makes up the $990,000. I think it's a well-rounded way to spend those dollars to improve instruction and provide for improvements in the safety of our buildings. Any questions on that? All right. Under personnel, item 8, I recommend the board approve the personnel actions as submitted.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation on approving the personnel. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
For our administrative report this evening, I asked Dr. Rainey to provide to you one of what will be a series of reports from her departments under teaching and learning. Tonight is a focus about instruction, and she's titled it for you. In just a moment, you can hear about it. In January, she'll provide additional report to you about professional development. In February, part of our team will be talking with you about STEM programs and social emotional support. And in April, we'll be talking to you about our arts program. So we want to give you a full flavor of different things going on in this part of the world in Vestavia City Schools. Dr. Rainey, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to share tonight the Department of Teaching and Learning. I'll be talking about the people, the programs, and the possibilities. And when we really think about teaching and learning, so much of that is about goal number 1, our district goal 1. Let me get back on. And so as we think about all of the things that we provide, I think it's important first to think about who it is we serve. We serve 7,080 students. So when we think about all of these services across our 9 schools, we have 7,080 students that we provide instruction to each day. And then when we think about our demographics, we have 2.77% who represent 2 or more races, 84.41% white, 6.11% Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander, 0.11%. We have 5.24 Black, 6.95% Asian, and 0.52% American Indian or Alaskan Native. We also provide special services, and so when we think about our special services, I think it's important to note that for our English language learners, we serve 122 students. For special education, we have 676 students who we serve on IEPs, and that's 9.55% of our student population. We serve 1,212 gifted students, 17.11% of our population. We have 68 students currently in our virtual program. We have 18 students who we serve through our homebound services. 9 of the 18 are served through our through our special ed program, and the other 9 are served through our general education program. And then we have 208 students who are identified as free and reduced lunch, 2.94%. And that number is a little different than it has been in the past, and we contribute that to currently we're serving free lunch to all students in our district. So they're not required to fill out the forms that we typically do. And this is the number, the direct cert that we get from the federal government for students on food stamps, and that's the number that we get with that direct cert. And then who is it that's providing all these services to our students in the teaching and learning department? When we think about our personnel, we have 902 employees, 590 are certified, 312 are classified, and this year we have 29 teachers who are what we call TEAMS teachers. And TEAMS is, that's with our State Department, Teacher Excellence and Accountability for Mathematics and Science. And so I think it's important to note that we have 29 secondary teachers who are on TEAMS contracts. And these 29 teachers, there are several things in their contract, but they have to teach they have to work 2 additional days than the regular teacher contract. And then there are 4 days of professional development that they have to participate in that's approved by the State Department. And so the goal here is really to bolster the teaching of math and science. And then when we look at our certified personnel for specialized instruction and support, this is you'll see that elementary is on the right-hand side, left-hand side, and secondary is on the right-hand side. When we look across, this is just kind of a snapshot and a visual to show the instructional support that we provide in elementary school when we think about our reading coaches, our elementary interventionists, our elementary counselors, gifted speech. You see that there are so many more in elementary than when we get to our secondary schools. You see we have a lot of counselors when we get to secondary, but not as many of those other instructional supports. So I think that's important to note. And now what are we doing in the area of technology? So we're continuing with our Power School implementation. We are looking at IdennaKid. Formerly, it was called Raptor, and that was our check-in, check-out system. And so we're piloting IdennaKid at the high school, and it does the same things. It does the background checks, but it allows us to do period attendance, which Raptor does not. And IdennaKid is supposed to communicate better with Power School than Raptor. So we're currently piloting that at the high school. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. And if it works well, then we'll be implementing that across the district. And then we have a device refresh plan for employees. And I'll share that with you here in just a minute. And then I'm really excited to share that summer of 22, we will have a new domain name for employees only. And the domain name, the tag on our email address will be @vhcs.us instead of the @vestavia.k12.al.us. So I'm really excited about that. Yes, I can see all the smiles and happy faces in class. And so now I want to talk a little bit about our employee device refresh plan. So Keith has done a great job of creating this visual for us, kind of like Amazon when you go and you can compare products. Keith has created this visual for us, and our CNI team, our team in teaching and learning have worked with him to look at the different functionality, things that each device will allow us to do. And so, so our plan and what we are considering is the PC versus the Mac. And as you can see, they will do very similar things. They're very similar in weight, in style, in functionality, but where they differ, and where they differ quite a bit, is in the price tag. So when we look at the cost to the district for PCs, you can see after the ECF funding is applied, it would cost the district $322,000 for PCs, but it would cost the district, after the funding has been applied, $957,600 for max.
Okay, max now.
We have max now, yes. And so, that is what we are looking at and considering for our employee device refresh plan.
We do them all at once, or is it, change them all at once?
Yes, and that would not happen until probably just before summer, so they would have their new device for their professional learning this summer. And I'm looking at Keith, because I don't want to commit to something that his department can't carry out.
Excuse me, Dr. Randy,
Yes.
what's the age of our devices for our teachers generally right now?
Between 5 and 7 years. So they're beyond needing a replacement.
And where it gets cost prohibitive when they're that old, or
They get particularly slow. The repairs cost us because they're out of warranty. Keeping up with the latest OS on them, they age out of being able to be upgraded.
there are certain things that we would keep in play as relates to Mac though in the schools.
Yes, I can speak to that. We'll have a few. So for example, some of our digital media classes, some of our elementary schools that run their morning meeting things, those type of programs, some of our fine arts programs will continue to have the MacBooks. And then the others would of course have the PCs. When we look at the price here, that would be our proposal from our department.
Do you feel like, I'm a Mac person, so you feel like Windows can give our teachers,
Yes,
other than the special one-offs, I get the digital stuff, but you feel like that Windows 11 is comparable to what things do with Mac?
Do we feel like they have this relatively equal lifespans for both?
yes.
Support side any different for the product?
Not extremely. I mean, there are a couple of things on the back end from a, technical, but we operate in both worlds already, so it's not a new learning curve or anything like that.
Since Keith's been here, this is one of our focus areas that we really have a long-range plan for devices for students or for teachers. And we've gotten the student ones in place, almost refreshed all of those, and now it's time for teachers. I appreciate the work on getting this to a good place, fiscally responsible place that still gives an excellent device to our teachers.
Sorry, you said you're looking at conference?
Right before teachers go to summer, so they'll have them for the entire summer to work with them and develop curriculum with them and all that. So
And all of our, that
and do training.
stuff moves pretty easily between the two, so I assume all of our subscriptions work, all the stuff they have developed is
Yeah.
probably just moves pretty
Yeah,
easily.
we operate 90% in the cloud anyway, so it's not going to change
Well,
what
most
we do
people
with
use
Google.
Excel and Word on their Mac, and so I figured. I do too. Thank you.
Any other questions? And now, just a little bit about curriculum, and basically, I just want to make everyone aware that on our website, under Teaching and Learning, we have all of our curriculum available there for the public, for parents to look at. It has all of our standards. I really appreciate Whit. He has done a great job working with our department on making sure this is available. It has pacing guides. It has the list of textbooks. Really what has been approved and what we're using is available here for anyone who would like to see what materials, resources, and curriculum that we're using. Grading, standards-based and standards reference. We've already talked about this a little bit. K-3, we use standards-based grading, and 4 through 12, we use standards referenced grading. And so in Power School, I have just a screenshot here where you can see if a teacher, this is a teacher view. So when a teacher logs into Power Teacher Pro, there's a drop-down menu. They just, when they're setting up their assignment, they click the tab for standards. And then there's a drop-down menu, and they just select the standards that they want to attach to that particular assignment. which really makes everything work hand in hand. So here are our standards listed. Parents, the public can go and see what standards we're teaching. And then in the grade book, each assignment that's given has standards that are referenced to that assignment. So we know that what our children are learning and being graded on, being taught in the classroom, it all ties together and links together. So this is a really good feature for Power Teacher Pro. And then just a reminder too, I shared this at our last board meeting, our parent app. It's at the parent portal and you can download it on your phone, and it's available for secondary students only. So just so you know, that's for secondary students only. And then a few more examples of what Power Teacher Pro looks like. I think it's important to know. I think this is a very helpful tool. In Power Teacher Pro, there are categories set up, and there are categories from the district that we established, and then teachers can add to those categories in their gradebook if they would like to. And so you can see the categories are color-coded. And then the second picture on the top, on the right-hand side, is just a glimpse of what the gradebook looks like. And at the top, you can see those categories are color-coded. So you can quickly look in your grade book for the assignments that you've given, and you can see how, if you've given more tests than other assignments, or if you've given one type of assignment, more of one type of assignment than another. And then finally, the bottom picture is the standards progress. So you can quickly look at the assignments that are in your grade book. You can look at the standards, and then you can look to see how many assignments that you've given for each standard. And then this is a snapshot of a second quarter grade book. And so once grades are entered, then they can also see a comparison of how the students are performing on each one of those standards. So that lets the teacher know if they need to go back and reteach or cover a standard in a different way if the majority of the students did not do well. So there are really some good features that really help assist teachers and make their job, I think, probably a lot easier than I know. It did not have all these fancy features. And so although it's a challenge to learn it, I think whenever we get it really under our belt and are using it well, it will really help us in the long run.
Is it a preload? So to me, it seems like it'd be a lot of work to go mark every assignment with every standard.
It's just a drop-down menu. Let me go back a slide.
But so most teachers teach the same assignment and the same test every year. Can you just pull up that same assignment year after year and it's got all your standards, or do you have to mark it every time?
You put each assignment in, and then it has a drop down of all the standards for your course, so you can just check the box of, these three, like, for example, this is from a actual teacher's grade book. These four standards were checked off by that, or these three standards were checked off by that teacher for that specific assignment.
And I guess I'm old school,
It's
but they
something
used to
they're
have to
used
do
to
them on a
doing.
plan, they used to have to do them on a
You had
manual
to
plan.
write them
and they
out or
signed.
type them up.
So you had to do it anyway. This is just now, let's drop and click.
And it's all in one place.
I remember the old plans you have to sign.
Yes.
But it's fine. Okay.
Is for all grade levels or just secondary?
This is for 4 through 12. All teachers that are on the traditional grading scale.
It's different K through 2 because they're on standards already, so they have their standards already loaded and they're graded differently than a traditional.
But a parent can't see this, right? This is the teacher's grade.
This is the teacher's grade book, but I just thought it would be interesting for you to be able to see what teachers see when they log in and look at their grade book. And I'm kind of looking at the principals and the building administrators. Is there anything that you would like to share or add to Power Teacher Pro and how this is working on your campuses?
Okay, so when our teachers become more familiar with this, as part of our work with Solution Tree and professional learning teams, this drives a lot of really good conversation. So second semester, or even if they're doing their summer DIYs, in other words, where the teachers apply for and say, hey, we want to get together, we want to work on content for next year. If they bring a printout of, say, a unit that they all share, this is a really good conversation piece because you can see, well, you know what, I covered way more of this, but not a lot of this, or how can I do more of a balance? So this really does partner really well. I believe in the long run, it's going to partner well with what we're doing with our professional learning teams.
Is it a piece of your observation? I mean, no, it hasn't been, but, I mean, I would use it as a piece of a principal observation of, are we grading, are we across the board doing what we're supposed to be doing? Are we scoring the same way?
Yes, and on those conversations.
Or maybe it's not principal,
Not
maybe
yet.
it's,
That's
maybe
coming.
That's coming.
That's.
you know, I guess I said that, and that's what I would use it.
Well, and I think when you say observations, probably what most people are hearing is a formal observation, but it's certainly conversation.
Yeah, just like an
Yes.
assessment of, are we covering what we're
Yes.
supposed to be covering in the right depth?
Absolutely, and
Right.
those are conversations that we even have among administrators, you know, and with the teaching and learning team. We talk a lot about what are quality, effective grading practices. What are we doing? How are we doing it? Let's provide training and help, and so that we're all moving in unity, making sure that our grading practice are accurate and they're truly reflective of learning. Do we just have a grade in the grade book that has no reflection of what the student learned, or is it a true grade for learning? And these type of things is what gives us that opportunity to have that better conversation. Because then it's not how I feel or what I like or how I was taught or how I taught when I was in the classroom, but instead now we have, this is what is currently taking place, and it's such good specific information that we can make better decisions and have better conversations about what we're doing, how we're teaching, how we're grading, and how we're communicating that learning to students and to parents.
I look at this from a math perspective, right? So in math, if you miss a fundamental, you're going to struggle on the next fundamental. So I would hope that this would be something that you could go back and go, everybody's scoring Ds on Algebra 101. There's no wonder we can't do Algebra 103, right?
And that's what happens in professional learning communities. So when we talk about formative assessments, so when we have that conversation, and that's some of what we're doing with Solution Tree and the work we're doing and the coaching for teachers that are provided. And so the next kind of place we're going is formative assessments. So when we give a common formative assessment, that means if we're all fourth grade math teachers, we have collectively agreed to give the same assessment that we've created based on the standards that we said we are teaching. We're going to give it on a certain day. So they give that common formative assessment, then they get the students' results back, and then they come into their PLC with those student results. And so then collectively they look together and talk about how their students performed on specific standards. And so, for example, if me and Courtney and Dr. Martin were in a PLC together, I could say, wow, my students on standard 4.3, my students, only 60% of them mastered this skill. But, you know, Courtney, 98% of your children mastered this particular standard. What did you do? How did you teach it? Which strategies did you use?
And that's what I mean. It should be used to drive the best of what the
Yes.
best are doing, so everyone can learn
Yes, so that's
that
what
part.
happens.
Not let's grade our teachers on how well they use drop downs.
Yes, so that's what happens in the professional learning teams. You hear us talk about teams versus communities. So a professional learning team would be that fourth grade team. And then when all the teams in a school, you know, we have all these teams in a school, that's what we call a professional learning community. But yeah, that's absolutely what happens. And that's where the power of a PLC comes into place, is when schools are able to get better professionally, when students are able to get better with what they're learning and how they can demonstrate their learning. That is driven through the vehicle of the PLC, and this is what we use when we come in to have those collaborative conversations.
Will
And
the
then-
report, I'm sorry, will the report
yes.
cards look the same?
No, report cards will look different.
So you get a grade, or you get evaluated by a standard, right?
No, they won't show on the report.
They won't show them.
Mm-mm. It's only for teacher and administrator benefit to be able to have the conversation to improve our, to perform our teaching and our instruction. And so for assessments, we talked a little bit already this year about our READY and the ACAP, the Alabama Comprehensive Assessment Program. And so we're right now in December, we'll begin the mid-year our READY assessment. And so our READY allows us, as we go along throughout the year, to get an idea of how our students are performing on those standards. Because the ACAP is a standards-based assessment. And so the standards that we teach, the standards that are on our website, the standards that we're referencing in our grade books are the same standards that are tested with our READY, which are the same standards that we're held accountable for on ACAP. So I hope you can see how all of this works and aligns together to allow us to work, I'll always say smarter, not harder. It allows everything to align. And so I'm really proud of how our students scored on the ACAP, and I am confident as we monitor our progress throughout the year that we'll be ready to do well again at the end of this year. For acceleration and enrichment, currently we have a pilot at Liberty Park Elementary School for a STEM special. We have Project Lead the Way courses in middle school and high school. We have, we have one at high school. We have additional CTE courses and dual enrollment courses in the high school, and then our advanced courses in middle school.
It's a Project Lead the Way. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's the next slide. Yeah, so for Project Lead the Way, that is a training where teachers go and I was looking over at Dr. Cooper because this is his area, Project Lead the Way. It's a training that teachers go through in the areas of math, science, and computer science. And so you can see that we have 18 elementary teachers who are 16 that have been trained, 13 middle school teachers, 1 high school teacher that was trained. We offer 4 courses at the middle school: medical detectives, app creators, computer science for innovators and makers, automation and robotics at Liberty Park Middle School, and then cybersecurity at the high school. So Dr. Cooper, is there anything you would like to add or say about Project Lead the Way?
Sure. Project Lead the Way is a professional organization that's in partnership with State Department of Education, where they provide K through 12 curriculum in the form in the fields of STEM and health sciences. And so what we've done is, in compliance with the Alabama Computer Science Act, we decided to go ahead and start sending a lot of our elementary teachers through Project Lead the Way training so that we can be equipped to facilitate that learning should we have to go that route next school year. And on the middle school level, these are the courses, the app creators and the computer science for innovators and makers satisfies the Alabama Computer Science Act to make sure we're in compliance with that. So the students get to do a lot of hands-on learning. It's like AmSty, where you get kits on the elementary side. Well, we can purchase different kits to go, and they're called modules. And we get to purchase those to be able to facilitate those outside of the norm lessons in our middle school and high school areas, and as well in our elementary areas, especially at Liberty Park right now as a special.
And these classes are well attended, right? I know some of them.
Yes.
Yes.
Cybersecurity is in its second year and it's growing. I do believe we may have more sections next year possibly. And in the middle school, this is our second year for app creators and computer science, well, for all of them. Actually, automation and robotics, this is the first year that it was added. But these other courses, I like to say they're highly populated on the middle school level.
Yeah, I think it's growing. It's like, when kids don't know about it, with 8th period this year, our science teachers through teams, they've been taking kids through these on a rotation. So kids have opportunities to do more than one of these during their 8th period class. So that's been good.
Is there a path to expand this? Like, are there more classes to add?
Sure, they have a both of the courses that we could actually purchase some modules for. What we were starting off with was just trying to make sure that we had our computer science trickling down from the high school to the middle school level and have it to where the students can be able to see what futures were ahead of them. So We really started off with the middle schools. We bought tablets for the app creators course. So all of the students are one-on-one with tablets in that classroom. And they're able to learn how to create an app from scratch and build it out and go to market if they want to. And for medical detectives, well, not medical detectives, but computer science for innovators and makers, they really get to learn the nuts and bolts of it. And that fits well into the computer science courses that we have at the high school. As far as medical detectives, our health science program is amazing at the high school. So this is just exposing the students to it at an earlier age so that they can see the world that'll be ahead of them in that area. And our robotics, I mean, we have robotics in a lot of our elementary schools, and that just builds into our high school robotic team. And on elementary, they have more flexibility actually than the secondary schools, because in one class, the teacher can choose to, or a school can choose to use whatever modules they want to, be it computer science, earth and space science, anything STEM related they can do in the elementary level.
So at the middle school, if they sign up for this, is it one class per 9 weeks that they do? Like they do
Well, I
medical
think
detective and then app creator?
I think what happened last year is that a lot of kids didn't know what these classes were. And so there wasn't as great of an interest at the start. But then kind of one of the benefits of having the Teams teachers is that during their 8th period, all of our science teachers that are on Teams kind of determined, well, we want to use this training that we've got. And if we haven't had kids that signed up for that, we can place kids in these classes. So our math Teams teachers are doing intervention during that time. And then our science Teams teachers have taken the training that they have to rotate kids. So several of the kids have said, I wouldn't have signed up for this, but I like this. So I think the exposure piece is really important and will also help to build the courses at the high school, because then they'll have had the opportunity to know about it a little bit more. When you've had electives that have been around for a really long time, that's what they know about because their siblings took that, or, so these are just new. So I think it'll take a while to grow. But I mean, one of our teachers strictly teaches coding and robotics all day, and she's got a full group of kids. So it's growing.
We have a plan to try to increase that exposure. We're planning on, and we set up the system to have a STEM camp this summer for our rising 4th and 5th grade students and our rising 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. And Project Leader will be one of the main vehicles that we use to expose those students to STEM.
That's where we really have to work, is to educate them, 5th going into 6th. Put them in unified arts, right? Make it a rotation so that not just kids, but parents can understand, right? I mean, in my house, you get told what you're gonna take as a 6th grade, right? They don't know. Study hall all the way, right? So you have to educate parents too, is look at what these options are. And like I always tell people, if you take it and you hate it, that's great too, right? You've learned, I don't wanna be in the health field, right? And so I think we have some work to do on how to advertise these through bringing teachers down to kids or parent nights so that they can see. Because when you get to the high school and you see the course book that's offered, 9 out of 10 freshman parents go, this looks like my college book, right? You don't have the exposure to, it's not 4 classes that we teach and a couple of electives, right? It's a couple hundred classes that can be anything you want to be. And so that's always something as a parent I thought we got to get better at.
So I'll move on because we've got quite a bit left to cover. So intervention and support. So intervention and support. We have SST, which is our student support team, and that's the vehicle that we use when students, when we realize that students need additional support. This team is made up of administrators and teachers, and sometimes counselors are in these SST meetings. And sometimes other professionals are brought into the SST meeting, and that helps us to determine which level of support the students need, tier 1, 2, or 3. We also have tutoring before and after school. We have interventionists at our schools for K-8. We have reading coaches that work with kindergarten through 3rd grade. We had a literacy camp this past summer. We'll have a literacy camp again this coming summer. And as Dr. Cooper said, we have a STEM camp designed that we'll be doing this summer as well. We have our behavioral interventions, our screeners that we give throughout the year, our virtual program with 68 students, and then we have contract therapists. So we have a lot of different things that we use to provide intervention and support. And when we talk about the tiers, tier 1, 2, or 3, and you'll hear the RTI, when you hear people talk about we're using the RTI process, or when we talk about SST, and we talk about these levels of support. This is a diagram from Solution Tree. You'll hear Solution Tree a lot too, because it's one of our partners that we use for professional development, and really one of the leaders in the industry, if not the leader, probably the leader in the industry. So tier 1, 2, and 3. Tier 1 is just what happens in the general education classroom. And then tier 2, that's additional support that's provided within the classroom. And then tier 3 is, that is an intensive intervention, and that typically happens outside of the classroom. And so we do tiers for both behavior and academics. In the area of student services, one thing we have this year that is new that I was excited to share with you this afternoon is that we have an impact therapist for our elementary schools. It's provided through a State Department grant. It's a full-time therapist. They serve 6 students per day at each one of our elementary schools, and they go to a different school each day. And they provide tier 3 services for behavior, anxiety, and trauma. And again, when we talk about tier 3, it's that additional support that's provided. So it's another layer beyond what our school counselors provide. It's that therapist that's there to really serve our students with our greatest need.
Our counselors recommend our students for this program?
Yes, there's a process in place for the students. Just as we, as our SST comes together to determine, and we have a collective approach looking at the students' academic needs to determine what they need, what levels of support they need, and what's working, what's not working, what resource we need to provide. We do that same thing for behavior. So yes, it's a collaborative approach, and we have a process in place for determining which children receive these tier 3 services with the impact therapist. And then also Ms. Bailey and Ms. Gaston, our social worker, they've been providing faculty and parent awareness tips, support housing. And this is in response to the State Department each year requires us to provide training to our employees in this area. Well, we have these modules that we do online, but we felt that it was in the best interest of our students and our employees to do this face-to-face. We wanted to make sure that it was really, truly meaningful, and that our employees were getting the most from this training. So we elected, and our principals shared with us this summer that they would really appreciate having that training in person versus doing it through our online modules. And so they are doing a traveling roadshow, and I've been hearing great reviews and responses from our schools and from our teachers on the training that they've been providing. And really kind of what is leading and guiding our work in that area, I think this quote from Brene Brown really paints such a beautiful picture of our goal here. And it says, what we are ethically called to do is create a safe space in our schools and classrooms where all students can walk in and for that day or hour, take off the crushing weight of their armor, hang it on a rack, and open their heart to truly be seen. And that is really what's kind of motivating and guiding our work in the area of mental health. And when they are going from school to school, sharing with employees and with parents, their purpose is to create this awareness of mental health concerns in students, teach strategies for prevention and intervention, and ultimately better address students' social and emotional needs. And when they go in, they have goals, and these learning goals is what they share at each school. And when you finish with their training, they hope that you can articulate the importance of teacher-student relationships on student wellness and learning, implement strategies to support student wellness and academic success, and determine when they need to reach out for counseling support. And then just as we talk about the triangle, the tiered levels of support, when we think about our social emotional needs, when we think about that pyramid, the basis, those psychological needs, just our basic things that we need as humans. Our next level, there's our safety needs, love and belonging, esteem, and finally, self-actualization, and that's where we desire to become the most that we can be. And so that's where we want all of our students to be, is at the self-actualization part of that pyramid. I also wanted to celebrate some of our accomplishments tonight, and we have 13 National Merit semifinalists, and so that's exciting. And we wanted to make sure that, that we celebrated that tonight. I also wanted to share with you our AP scores from the high school. So as you can see, this is a longitudinal look over the past 5 years from 2017 to 2021. And you can see that our total AP students have increased. We had the most in 2021 that we've ever had. 621 students took AP courses. So in turn, we've had the most exams that we've ever given. 1,460 AP exams were given. Students with scores of 3 or higher was 446. And our percentage of students with a score of 3 or better is 71.82%. The percentage is slightly lower, but when you look at how many more students attempted and took AP classes and took the assessments, we are really excited to see that number growing, especially with all the other offerings that we have. We've increased CTE courses, we've increased dual enrollment, and we see this increase as well in our AP classes.
Is
Yes.
the percentage of the 3+ is that of all students or of all students who took the actual AP exam?
All students who took the AP exam, and I'm looking to get a head shake from our high school administrators.
And it is the year of COVID, which is one of the reasons that percentage is probably slightly lower.
That's true.
So if you know a student who took an AP course this spring that we had to shut down, what AP did is they actually cut off some parts of their particular course work. So it was unusual. So there was a gap. But to me, if you're looking at a number, given all of what the alternate days and how difficult it was to teach AP coursework via electronically and alternate days, that is, to me, amazing.
So is the 2021, is that from spring 2021 or spring of 2020? Spring
2021.
So they had a full year school.
Right.
It was all.
And in some of these AP courses, the year before, so in 2020, some of those, I wouldn't call them a prerequisite course, but some of the content they learned in 2020 did or did not impact, depending on the type of learner. So that was a variable that had to be discussed.
Or like history's a 2-year class.
And in your board portal, you have additional information on the AP scores, a breakdown by courses and how the students perform. So if you want more information, it's available there for
Come and
you.
sit down. Go sit down, round table.
And now I wanted to celebrate our ACT composite scores for 2020-21. When we look at our ACT scores and how our students are performing, they just are doing so well. We have 205 students who scored 25 or above on their composite ACT score.
Is this the one we offer at the school, but everybody takes?
Yes, this is that.
It's not necessarily the best score, it's just that test.
Yes, when we get our report back, it does, because all this information just comes on the report that we receive. And so this is the report based on the students that took it at the school. Seniors. And this is seniors. And this is seniors from last year. So 68 students scored 30 or above, which is really quite remarkable. And now we'll break it down and look at the subtest scores. So in reading, you will see that 112 students scored 30 or above on the ACT. And this is in order from the subject area that our students did the best on to the subject area that our students performed the worst on. When we look at our English scores, you'll see that 101 students scored 30 or above. I'll give you a minute to digest the chart. In science, 49 students scored a 30 or above. And then in math, 38 students scored a 30 or above. So when we think about what we're currently doing and what we're currently providing, we are doing a lot, and the teachers and the administrators at the schools are working so hard, and our curriculum and instruction team, we have really been working to streamline things and using the information, our data, how well our students are performing, what areas we could do better in, as well as Dr. Freeman has had so many of these focus groups that have been meeting that include community leaders, administrators, parents, teachers. And so through all of this work with focus groups and then also looking at our data, looking at our scores and seeing where we could do things a little better, we wanted to talk about the possibilities and what's beyond the horizon. So some of the things that have come to light is an instructional partner would be great to have in every school. More counselors.
Instructional partner, you mean like an interventionist?
No, an instructional partner, and I have a slide on instructional partners here in just a second. So an instructional partner for every school, more counselors to meet the one counselor for 250 students, and also to help address the mental health needs. Like we've seen tremendous results from the therapists that is helping our elementary schools. That would be great to be able to see that type of assistance for our, more of that type of assistance for our middle and high schools. And then additional specials for elementary schools in the area of STEM and world languages. And so an instructional partner, what would be the benefits of an instructional partner? What is an instructional partner? So an instructional partner is someone who would be at each one of our schools, and they would assist with professional development and supporting the work of our professional learning teams. They would lead teachers through coaching cycles and help with action research and be a part of action research. They would share strategies, they would share resources and research, and then they would also partner with our school administrators to review data and to design actions to enhance learning and close gaps. And so this would be an additional support specifically for instruction. And so this would help elevate our current work and add leverage to what our principals and our assistant principals are currently doing to lead instruction. And it would be someone who really could, we've already begun such great work through our PLTs, our professional learning communities at our schools. We've already begun such great work. It would be a person who would be there that could really take us now to the next level. We've worked with Solution Tree. We've received the training. This is someone who would really help us specialize and be that additional partner, that right hand for school administrators to be able to give more time and attention, even than we currently do, to instruction.
So like a community leader you're wanting to bring in to like bring insight to particular topics, or this is like you hire in the school system to be designated for each school? I guess I'm not really getting.
These are teacher leaders. These are the
Yes.
best
Okay.
instructional people that would be coaching our other teachers. And so one of the benefits I like of this is you have great teachers sometimes that would like to aspire to a different level of service for school, but they don't want to be an administrator. They want to stay in the instructional game. There's a lot of those. And this is an opportunity to do that and really have a larger impact across the school We had, not similar to it, but a couple of years ago, and we did not include it in the last 2-year budgets for information technology specialists, ITS. This is somewhat of a replacement of that, but a much more broader view of instructional best practice and how to coach that. So it's a really grand, I think, idea.
And this lets you find the best of the best and put it in all your
That's
schools.
right.
Yes, it's like a master teacher. It's like a teacher leader who just specializes and their whole focus is on the instruction in the building, to partner with the school administrators to help look at the data, look at courses, look at the grading, to have conversations and to help provide professional development to really help us move to the next level. What would be the benefits of a world language special? When we think about world language, it would provide an integrated, effective approach to teaching essential standards and core values. It would support the work with vocabulary through the spoken languages that we teach at the high school, as well as Greek and Latin. It would provide students exposure, for students who have exposure to world languages, fine arts, and STEM. This just provides them a natural connection to the academic content, and they're natural vehicles for teaching character. So one of the things that has really come from our STEM pilot, when I spoke to Dr. Inaminit, is that one of the things they're seeing with this pilot is that one of the concerns for teachers is that, it's going to take away from the instructional time. But what they have found is the STEM teacher embeds the standards from math and for science. And so instead of taking away from the instructional day, it gives additional opportunities in such a hands-on way that students really are more able to deeply understand the standards and the content. And so it just provides that natural vehicle for taking that academic content and providing it in a way that students can really understand and use it and apply it, as well as it's an avenue for teaching character. So what they have done with their STEM special is their core values for their school. They have taken those and they do like a challenge of the week. So Dr. Inaminit, I see you shaking your head. So the challenge this week, if you will share with our STEM special.
So for example, right now we're as a school-wide focus service. One of our core values of service is a school-wide focus. So each STEM challenge, it starts with a focus on service. I don't even know what Ms. Martin had today to kick off the week for a challenge, but previously, for example, when empathy was the core value of that week, that we were focusing on as a school community on, the challenge that was before them was to design an innovation that would meet the needs of a classmate that had difficulty getting their lunch tray from the line to their seat in the cafeteria because the child walked with a prosthetic device. So it was all from the lens of empathy, feeling of that person. How do we innovate and go through the design thinking cycle based and rooted in the core value that we're working through as a school community. So we didn't anticipate that would be such a natural vehicle for character, but it has been. And so the design thinking process is built around those core values and the natural integration of both the academic standards and the work with character has been pretty powerful through that STEM special.
And to be clear, you're talking about in our elementary schools as a rotation that a kid would go through every week.
Yes.
We did it years ago.
Yes, so offering a world language special, and then it also allows us to address one of our pillars of our mission, which is the appreciation of diversity. It provides us that opportunity to do that as well. And then what are the benefits of STEM education? Well, from this article, there were 7 benefits that I thought were really good, and I couldn't say them any better than they did. So it fosters ingenuity and creativity, it builds resilience, encourages experimentation, encourages teamwork, encourages knowledge application, encourages technology use, teaches problem solving, and encourages adaptation. So those are some of the benefits of the things that our focus groups, when I say community leaders, really that's what I was talking about. These people served on focus groups as to what they would like to see
our students have, what possibilities would there be for our children in Vestavia. And so these things came from those focus group meetings, from administrator meetings. And so that's where we are. And finally, when we think about STEM and we've thought about everything that we're doing in our district, from Project Lead the Way to the additional courses in middle and high school, to our pilot that we have at Liberty Park Elementary. And when we look at our data and see that on the ACT even, our students don't perform as well in math and science as they do in reading and language arts, we would love to be able to offer a STEM special at all of our elementary schools. And so you may be thinking, well, what does that look like? What would a STEM special look like? So here's a short little video to share with you about what a STEM class might look like.
Pause it. I think my speaker went to sleep over there. Sound here when it goes on. Here we go.
Tell me a little bit about your Lego digital designer project that you made in class.
I made a Lego airplane class, and it has the jets on the bottom of the wing, and it is in Delta colors, so Delta I have learned that building things, you have to make it the right thing in the right material. So it wouldn't fall or it's not too loose. You need to make it just right. It helped me use how to use computer typing and use my mouse and how to put the red buckle. I like that you learned about computer and you learned about technology. I like the Lego stuff, the gravity and the roller coaster. I learned that I can do a lot of stuff that I never did before. I can go to different websites and explore different kinds of websites.
That we got to use email and Google Docs and our iMacs. It helped me using my computer at my house. It taught me how to use Google Chrome.
I like that we get to learn the computers a lot. I learned that whenever you have a problem, you keep trying. Never give up.
You can't believe.
Okay, so that is a glimpse of the teaching learning world, the people, the programs, and the possibilities. So do you have any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Rainey. Ask us a question, but as a board, this is what's exciting, right? Because this is the future, right? STEM, world languages, fine arts, and these are the steps that we have to move our district in to go from being really good to being really great. And so these are, much needed improvements of all of our schools as well to put us into the future and make it what we have even better. Thank you.
So next meeting, I'll talk a little bit more about what we can do to try to make it happen. Looking forward to sharing that.
If that ends our business, let's see, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I mean,
Do we have a second?
Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.